Hello, good people. I've finished a book, The Great War at Sea. This is another book that came out of my pile. This is a pile of books that I've either never started, and that one I had never started, or I have started and stopped, at some point in the book. This book is a little unusual because I think I've had it for a very long time, like maybe as long as 10 years. I must have bought this because it does have a chapter on Jutland, because, I was just crazy about Jutland for a little while, read everything I could find on it, and, thankfully there's a lot in print on Jutland. A chapter, a 25, 30-page chapter is not going to do Jutland any justice. 10, 20 books doesn't give Jutland any justice. So I do have a bunch of notes. The author, A.A. Holing, I don't know, I have no idea, I'm probably pronouncing that terrible, probably butchering that. He was aboard a Liberty ship that was torpedoed and sunk in the Second World War. In case anybody doesn't know, I hate to treat people like they're stupid, but the Great War is World War I. They called it the Great War because they had no idea there was going to be a World War II. I mean, some of them might have, but they called it the Great War. There's a bunch of pictures in here. Some of them are pretty cool. 296 pages. The first chapter was a story that I had never heard. It was about Auxilary Liners, which both sides made use of. They did it in the Second World War as well. They would refit them with cannon. They would take all the wood off, all the flammable materials. And it just kind of follows a couple of them, an English one and a German one. It follows what happens to them. And then these two meet off the coast of South America. The German ship is named the Cap Trafalgar, and Cap, I'm sure, means Cape. And the English boat is called the Carmania. And they apparently hold some kind of a record for the longest cannonading of each other. It sounds to me like the German ship maybe aims for the superstructure and so does not sink the English ship. The German ship ends up sinking, and I can't remember whether they get the survivors off of that or not. A lot of the stuff in this book is amazing. How many, there'll be 700 men on these boats, and none of them are rescued. Chapter 2 is about an older model U-boat that goes out and just boom, 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 sinks 3 cruisers. These are older model cruisers. The second cruiser is back to take the survivors off the first one, and the guy, the U-boat captain says, "Well, fucking I might as well torpedo this guy too." And they're confused. They don't know whether they've hit a mine or they're getting torpedoed. Chapter 3 is the Vaughns Bay episode off the coast of South America. Vaughns Bay, with his squadron, catches a British squadron that's outgunned, and so the Germans sink 2 of the British, and then the British get their revenge near the Falklands. Vaughns Bay was actually steaming into this harbor at the Falkland Islands. He was going to destroy their wireless antenna, and then he noticed that there was a British squadron there, and again they're outgunned. Vaughns Bay takes off, but he decides to just turn and do battle, and all the ships in Vaughns Bay's squadron get sunk, except for the Dresden. The Dresden is a little bit faster, and it escapes. The English ships get damaged, but that's the way it is. It very rarely does a boat that's outgunned, there has to be some terrible gunnery on the other ship for it to lose. Chapter 4 goes into the Lusitania, the Emden. Emden was one of these auxiliary liners. The Crown Prince Wilhelm, the Königsberg. The Königsberg is really cool. I've read about this several times. The Königsberg hides up this river in Africa, the Rufiji, and they find it, and then there's like a 9-month siege of the Königsberg, but they end up sinking it, and actually the Königsberg crew goes and joins this. I won't remember his name, but there's a German officer that leads troops around Africa for the whole fucking war. They never do catch this guy. Chapter 5 is Jutland, and I'm not going to go into Jutland. A little bit I will. I have something here, page 121, and I remember what this is. All but 6 of her crew of 91 went down with the Shark. The Shark is just a destroyer. It's small. That's why there's only 91. Monk, the destroyer's chimpanzee mascot, was last seen chattering wildly in the rigging. On a raft, the survivors tried to shout, "Nearer, my God, to thee," above the din of battle. So, I don't care about the guys on the raft. I'm more concerned about the chimpanzee. Where the hell did they get a chimpanzee in the First World War? I'm just not all that sure that Europeans were that well acquainted with chimpanzees. Did they even know what a chimpanzee was? I'm betting this is the second time, by the way, that I've run into this chimpanzee story. I've got multiple books about Jutland. I've probably got more books about Waterloo than I do about Jutland, but Jutland is a very close second. I'm guessing it was a monkey, not a chimpanzee. Most of these boats had cats. That's what they had. Cats, not chimpanzees. And I've got written here the Wiesbaden. In this book, they claim that the British witnessed the Wiesbaden sinking. Nobody witnessed the Wiesbaden sinking. The Wiesbaden just drifts away and sometime in the night sinks. The Wiesbaden was a German cruiser that got disabled. And as the battle went back and forth, if you know anything about it, it was crazy. Scheer allowed his T to be crossed twice. And each time they had to do this turnabout with the entire van of the Grand Fleet following them. So each time this happened, the 10, 20 battleships of the Grand Fleet go by the Wiesbaden. Wiesbaden had not struck its colors, so they pounded some more. The Wiesbaden actually fires a torpedo that hits one of these. And this is after none of its guns are in action. One guy survives from the Wiesbaden. He gets picked up. And then I have written here, Scheer phone call. When I was doing the plant manager thing, it's been a year and a half or so since I've done that. But I was there alone one day, so I had to answer phones. And I answered the phone, and it was a guy from the Defense Department. He was just looking for a chemical company to bottle, like, shampoos and shit for them. Small bottles. We were a small-time operation, so it would have been a nightmare for us. And apparently it's a nightmare to get the government to pay you for shit like that. But I asked the guy his name, and I said, we'll call you back. I don't think we ever called him back. But he said his name was Scheer, so I asked him how you spelled it, and it's Scheer. And so we're on the phone, and I said, did you know that there was a German admiral that had his name spelled exactly the same as yours? And he, it's silent for a moment, and he said, yes, I know that. He says, that was my great-great-great-great-great-grandfather. Later on, I did the math, and that would have been about right. to have to say great 5 times. And I said, "Oh my God, that's incredible. I read about this all the time." I said, "Did you know what this guy did?" And he, and first of all, he sounded like he was a little bit choked up. That somebody knew, you know. And he didn't know. He didn't know nothing about it. He said that there was a steamer trunk somewhere with some shit in it, and that he was going to look in it one day. Uh, Chapter 6 is all about poor Lord Kitchener getting sunk in the North Sea. He's on the Hampshire, and this book claims that it was a mine. I've read other accounts that said it was torpedoed. Uh, Kitchener is the big hero of Khartoum, but if you read about Khartoum, Kitchener got his ass saved from a McDonald guy. Uh, it would have been another San Luana if McDonald hadn't have been there. And there was an incident in the Boer War where Cronje he's on the riverbank in the place called Paardeberg, and they're at bay. The Boers can't do anything. The British have them surrounded. There aren't any Boer commandos that can rescue Cronje, Paardeberg, and all they have to do is wait them out or cannonade them and cause them to surrender. But Kitchener orders a frontal assault on the lines, and the Boer are down in the floodplain, and the Boer were known for being excellent marksmen, and it was just a useless. He sent these men in there to get killed. So, I can't think of a better death for Kitchener than to drown in that cold water. He got what he deserved. Chapter 7 is a kind of a weird, bizarre incident where the U-53, which is kind of a big U-boat, just steams into an American port, asks permission to come in, delivers a sealed document to some German guy, and then goes out into international waters within view of the American coast, and calmly decides to start sinking vessels. Not American vessels, but this is in 1916. Shortly after that, the United States enters the war. Chapter 8 is all about this boat, the Cyclops, which was kind of a mysterious thing. It disappears. I was unfamiliar with the story of the Cyclops, and I thought it was kind of a boring chapter. Chapter 9 is about this crazy scheme that the British and the Americans had to mine the entire North Sea. And they pretty much did it. They laid like 40,000 mines. I don't know what the hell happens to all these mines, And the last chapter was kind of a cool account of the revolution at Kiel, uh, the the German sailors, with their communist revolution, and it kind of, the war was ending anyway, but that definitely sped along the end of the war. Uh, and then Kaiser Wilhelm, and it kind of gave an account of what he did. He fled to Holland and took all his shit with him, took his horses with him. Uh, it was a pretty good book, a little gem. Sat there for 10 years, and I ignored it for 10 years. Now it goes on the finished shelf. Thanks.